what are these megalithic structures, and what are connections that they have? Because they're found all over the world, and it's absolutely fascinating.
Well, look, I think everybody's heard of Stonehenge in England. You know, Stonehenge is probably one of the most famous megalithic sites in the world. Megalith simply means big stone, as a matter of fact. That's what the word megalith means. And it happens that at a certain point in human history, our ancestors began to create structures of groups of large stones, often arranged in circles, often with alignments to the rising or the setting of the sun at particular times of the year, often reflecting the movements of the stars in the heavens. It was as though there were some kind of attempt to replicate on the ground the perfection and majesty of the heavens, and to symbolically represent that with groups of very large stones on the ground. It's been thought until recently that the earliest megalithic structures date back about 6,000 years. Stonehenge in Britain is 4.5 to 5,000 years old in the form that we see it now. There are megalithic temples in Malta, for example, in the Mediterranean, which date closer to 6,000 years old. There are similar structures in Spain. There are indeed megalithic sites all over North America as well, particularly in New England. And the interesting thing is that recent archaeological discoveries in Turkey have shown that this kind of construction dates back much, much earlier even than 6,000 years ago. There's a site discovered in the last 10 years and excavated in the last 10 years in southeastern Turkey called Göbekli Tepe, which consists of a series of large stone circles, which we now know from the archaeological research are 12,000 years old.
Wow.
Now this is a very disturbing discovery from the point of view of history, because historians, archaeologists have believed until now that 12,000 years ago our ancestors were incapable of projects on such a scale of cutting and shaping gigantic blocks of stone weighing as much as 50 tons each, and of organizing them into huge stone circles. But the discovery and the excavation of Göbekli Tepe proves that that view of history was wrong, that there were, at any rate, some group of our ancestors more than 12,000 years ago who had these skills, which previously were not thought to have evolved until much, much later in the human story. So Göbekli Tepe is going to require a rewriting of human history, and raises a possibility that I've spent a lot of my working life investigating, which is the possibility that there has been a lost civilization in the human story. This is something that is remembered in myths and legends and traditions from all around the world, but that archaeologists have previously regarded as simply fantasy. But the evidence of Göbekli Tepe and a large amount of other evidence all around the world that I've explored in a series of books going back to Fingerprints of the Gods that I published in 1995. There's just a growing accumulation of evidence that we have forgotten a whole episode of the human story, and that we are indeed a species with amnesia. And the project now is to recover our memory of who we are and what we are.
Grant, it's